Hello, happy Monday. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Today I want to talk about arguing with your eating disorder. I have had a lot of sessions lately where I am talking to an eating disorder. I find myself a few minutes in actually arguing with an eating disorder or trying to disagree with an eating disorder, and I'll catch myself and be like, actually, I'm done with this conversation. I'm done talking to an eating disorder. Would you like to talk to me? I'd like to talk to you, but we're done entertaining all of these eating disorder thoughts. Okay. Well, let's talk about what we're going to do to actually recover from your eating disorder. And I just have found that to be more frequent in the last, week or so. And I find myself getting quite stirred. And I'm not saying this to scare people off who have thought about coaching with me. I say it in a loving way, and I say it once I've been with you for a while. But sometimes it needs to be said. Like sometimes eating disorders need to be shut up. And usually when I say that to a client, they pause for a second and they realize how entrenched they are in their eating disorder thoughts. And they're wondering why they're not making progress. And it's like, well, how much of this are you actually disagreeing with and actioning differently? But in session, we'll say this person, these people that I'm talking to, it's not one person, will say the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's all disordered stuff. And then I'll say a reply, and then it's like it doesn't sink in or it doesn't resonate or they don't like what that answer is. And so then they'll say it in a different way, the eating disorder thought. And so until you can start identifying and recognizing, and as a coach, I help you point that out. Hey, this is all eating disorder stuff. This is all your eating disorder talking. And you know logically that none of this makes sense. So an example of this would be, I have a client who's very unwell and is telling me, telling me that, and by the way, this is like not just one person, but this just happens to be a scenario recently, telling me that, in fact, the problem isn't, I have a problem with binging, and, people have meal support to help them to eat. And she's like, I need meal support to get people to stop me from eating. And I'm listening going like, can you pause for a second and listen to what you just said? Because if you actually believe that, if you really believe that, and you're not going to trust what I'm saying, that that's not actually the case, I don't know how I can help you. You are binging because you are severely restricting. Okay? And if you continue to restrict, you will continue to binge forever. It's never going to end. I think sometimes binging gets this really bad reputation because of just the world that we live in and the way that that word is tossed around and used. And so if you want to call it recovery eating, healing eating, just eating crap tons of food, whatever you want to call it, it's not a problem. And so this would just be a scenario that I have with an interaction in a coaching session. And we'll spend almost 30 minutes with me trying to convince them that the binging isn't the problem, that they need to allow themselves to let that binge happen over and over and over again with zero compensation. And that's all we get in a session. 30 minutes, that's all I've said, is that same thing 15 different times. And I hang up the session and I'm thinking, gosh, if they would have just said, oh, really? That's the problem. So I'm binging because I'm restricting, and register in their brain, shut the eating disorder off and register in their brain what that means. Logically, what that means they need to do is stop binging, stop restricting, and start allowing themselves to eat consistently, frequently, for a long period of time, and being patient with that process. They would get somewhere. Right? And so sometimes I think it's sort of interesting, the dynamic coaching with a client, because in some regard, I get it. Like, you've got a raging eating disorder. I'm some person on the internet that you never met personally, right? I'm telling you to do things that are absolutely terrifying that you haven't been able to do on your own. And then you're just supposed to trust that and do it. But what I will say is people who do trust it and do it, they do recover. They do recover. And I did it myself, right? And I did recover. And so I don't just come up with these things out of nowhere and feel like this is a fun experiment to play on someone. And on this client, I'm going to try this thing and see what happens to their brain. Like, this isn't me. I don't have any ulterior motives other than really, truly trying to help you recover as fast as you can. And so whether it's with me, with a client, or you're listening to this and it's with a spouse or a friend or a parent, and you find this same scenario happening where you're repeating yourself over and over and over again, and it's all this eating disorder garbage, and the people that are working with you are getting frustrated and fed up, I want you to take a look at yourself, reflect on kind of what have you been doing, what have you been saying, and what do you think is going to change if you don't stop? If you don't stop reiterating and saying the same fears over and over and over and over and over again without changing, at what point is your brain going to adjust and stop fearing those things? Okay. So at some point you're going to have to just say, knock it off, brain. Stop it. We are not going to seek validation. We are not going to seek permission one more time. We're going to do it. Okay. And it takes a lot of bravery and courage. And like I said, as a coach, sometimes I don't like to have to be that stern and blunt, but I think it's kind of a wake up call for that person. It's almost like diarrhea of the mouth and they just can't stop. When I just shut it down and say, stop, you have to stop with eating disorder stuff. You have to stop saying things that you already know the answer to. You have to stop asking things that you already know the answer to, because it hasn't changed from last time. It hasn't changed from yesterday. It hasn't changed from last week. That answer doesn't change. As much as you don't like that answer, still doesn't change what you have to do in your own recovery. Okay. So I do love coaching. I should probably finish this video with that, because I do sound like I'm probably a little bit heated up or fired up. But it does get really exhausting listening to eating disorders, right? I love coaching, and coaching isn't usually all about just listening to eating disorders, and it shouldn't be, right? Because it should be more proactive and practical tools to actually get you to recover. But again, if you have a family member or a friend or spouse, someone who's getting frustrated with you, please try not to blame it on them and look at within and see what you can change. You can still be open with them and talk about them and lean on them for support. Absolutely, you should, but take their advice to heart and actually implement it. Actually do the things that these people who love you and who understand what you're trying to do, trust them and actually do it. And you'll find that letting go of that control and truly just trusting this process, things do start to change for the better. And it's very, very scary, and I understand that, but I really do believe that anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. And I believe in all my clients too, by the way. Even when I get frustrated with them, I always still believe in them. And I'm always so proud of the progress that they make. So I'll leave on that note, and I hope you have a good day.